All right, let's dive straight into this. The Philadelphia Eagles are heading into Week 2 with a massive matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, and already there's drama surrounding the Birds. One of the biggest storylines right now is tight end Dallas Goedert, who once again is battling an injury. This has been the recurring theme of his career. As talented and valuable as he is, staying on the field has always been his biggest challenge. Reports out of practice say he's dealing with a knee sprain, and while it's not believed to be a season ender or anything long-term, his status for Sunday is completely up in the air. That's the frustrating part for both the team and the fans. Goedert just had a strong opener against the Cowboys, hauling in 7 catches, showing once again why he's such an integral part of both the passing attack and the run game with his blocking. But just like that, another injury has us wondering if he'll be ready for the Super Bowl 59 rematch this weekend at Arrowhead Stadium. The reality is that Goedert is one of the most complete tight ends in the NFL. Few guys at his position can dominate as both a pass catcher and a blocker the way he does. And that's why it stings so much when he's not available. Jalen Hurts relies on him heavily, both as a safety blanket in the passing game and as a key piece to set up Philadelphia's rushing attack. But the history here cannot be ignored. Since being drafted in the second round back in 2018, Goedert has missed 23 games because of various injuries. Year after year, something seems to crop up, whether it's a hamstring, a knee, or some other nagging issue. It's why the Eagles, despite his talent, have been hesitant to hand him the type of long-term extension he's been seeking. They know he's elite when healthy, but they also know they can't always count on him to be available. And that's the frustrating balance. Because when you watch him play, it's obvious how valuable he is. Just think back to that Week 1 performance against Dallas. Every catch mattered. Every time he touched the ball, it kept the chains moving and kept the Eagles' offense alive. The stat line might not blow you away at first glance. 44 yards on 7 catches, but those were meaningful touches in crucial spots. And beyond the numbers, you see his impact when he's sealing off defenders in the run game or drawing extra coverage in the red zone. Take him out of the equation, and suddenly the offense feels a lot less dynamic. It doesn't help that the guys behind him on the depth chart haven't proven themselves as capable. Grant Calcaterra, for example, still hasn't developed into a consistent blocker, which means when Goedert is sidelined, the offense loses not just a reliable target, but also one of its best run blockers. And in this matchup against Kansas City, every detail matters. The Chiefs' defense isn't easy to handle, and taking away a player like Goedert changes the way Philadelphia can operate both through the air and on the ground. But that's just one side of the story heading into this clash. Let's shift gears to the wide receiver room, specifically A.J. Brown. Week 1 against Dallas raised plenty of eyebrows because the All-Pro wideout was practically invisible in the stat sheet. Just 1 catch on 1 target for 8 yards. For a guy who's consistently been one of the top 3 receivers in the league since joining Philadelphia, that kind of usage felt shocking. So naturally, people started asking, was he hurt? Was he being used as a decoy? Was there something going on behind the scenes? AJ himself shut all of that down. On a podcast appearance, he made it clear that Dallas simply schemed him out of the game by playing heavy zone coverage. According to him, he didn't see a single rep of man-to-man defense all night. And if you know A.J. Brown, you know that's where he thrives, beating corners one-on-one, creating separation, and punishing defenses after the catch. Against zone, though, it's a different story. The Cowboys made it clear their plan was to not let him beat them, and they bracketed him all game long. That's why he wasn't a factor statistically. What I love about A.J.'s response is that he didn't whine. He didn't complain about not getting the ball. He pointed to the bigger picture. Philadelphia won the game. They're 1-0. And at the end of the day, that's what matters. Nick Sirianni even reminded his receivers of that exact point. Some games the ball will come your way, other games it won't, but as long as the team is winning, the mission is being accomplished. And AJ seems to have embraced that mindset. He's already proven he can put up massive numbers. He's topped 1,000 yards every season in Philly. He's been an All-Pro, and he's shown time and time again that he's a game changer. Of course, not everyone in national media gets it. Colin Cowherd went on his show and suggested that maybe the Eagles should consider trading A.J. Brown, even throwing out the Patriots as a possible destination. That's the kind of take that makes you shake your head. Because if you look at the numbers, A.J. Brown has been directly tied to Philadelphia's success. With him on the field, the Eagles average more than 27 points per game and own a record of 38 wins and 10 losses. Without him, they've averaged just 16 points per game and have lost more often than they've won. He's not just a luxury piece. He's essential to this team's Super Bowl window. Trading him away would be beyond ridiculous. And it's not just the stats. Think back to the Super Bowl against Kansas City. A.J. made a massive touchdown grab in that game, and even had another huge play wiped away by a questionable penalty. When the lights are brightest, he delivers. That's why the idea of moving on from him is nonsense. The Eagles know his value, and Howie Roseman certainly knows you don't take away a weapon of that caliber when you're chasing a championship. Now, while the Eagles deal with uncertainty surrounding Goedert and keep the offense flowing despite Brown's quiet opener, the Chiefs might be getting a boost of their own heading into Sunday. After suffering a shoulder separation in Week 1, second-year wideout Xavier Worthy surprisingly returned to practice. Many expected him to be sidelined for weeks, maybe even require surgery, but now it looks like he's pushing to play against Philadelphia. And if he's on the field, that adds a whole new wrinkle for this Eagles defense. Worthy may be undersized, but his speed and explosiveness are undeniable. He's the type of player who can stretch the field vertically, open up space underneath for Travis Kelce, and give Patrick Mahomes another dangerous weapon to work with. The thought of Worthy lining up alongside Kelce, even with a heavy shoulder brace, is something the Eagles' secondary has to take seriously. Without him, Kansas City would have been rolling into this game without two of their most dynamic weapons, since Rashee Rice is serving a suspension. That would have left Mahomes with a pretty limited arsenal. But if Worthy suits up, even at less than 100%, the Chiefs' offense looks a lot more threatening. So here we are, a rematch of last year's Super Bowl. Philadelphia versus Kansas City. A test for the Eagles to prove they've learned from that crushing loss, and a chance for the Chiefs to show they're still the standard. Both teams dealing with injuries, both trying to get into rhythm early in the season, and both knowing that this matchup could be a preview of what's waiting again in February. When we shift our focus back to A.J. Brown, his Week 1 performance remains one of the strangest storylines to come out of the NFL's opening weekend. Think about it. This is a player who has established himself as one of the top wide receivers in football, who's been an All-Pro every single year since arriving in Philadelphia. And yet he walked away from the opener against Dallas with just one catch for 8 yards. Naturally, that raised all kinds of questions, not just from fans but from analysts around the country. Was he banged up? Was he being used as some kind of decoy to draw coverage and open up space for others? Was there tension brewing between him and the coaching staff? When a star of that magnitude suddenly disappears from the stat sheet, speculation always runs wild. But A.J. set the record straight himself, and in doing so he probably calmed a lot of nerves in Philadelphia. Speaking on a podcast with Jordan Schultz, he explained that the Cowboys played zone coverage on nearly every single snap. Not one rep of straight man-to-man defense. That means no real opportunities for him to beat a corner one-on-one, which is usually where he does his damage. He wasn't injured, he wasn't frustrated about targets, and he certainly wasn't being benched or frozen out of the game plan. The simple truth was that Dallas built their entire defensive approach around preventing A.J. Brown from getting loose, and they executed that plan to perfection. What stood out to me is how A.J. responded to that reality. He could have sulked, he could have complained about not being involved, he could have stirred up drama the way many wideouts across the league tend to do when their numbers dip. Instead, he leaned into the bigger picture. His exact words were that he wasn't hurt, he wasn't being used as a decoy, it's just how the game played out, and that he's excited for Week 2. That is the mentality you want from your star receiver. Because as he knows, and as Nick Sirianni reminded the team, there are going to be games where wide receivers explode with 10 catches for $150 and multiple touchdowns, and there are going to be games where defenses take them away. As long as the team wins, nothing else matters. And that's the key. The Eagles did win. They beat Dallas. They got to start the season 1-0. They now have an opportunity to go into Kansas City and make it 2-0 with revenge on their mind in a Super Bowl rematch. At the end of the day, A.J. Brown has already proven himself countless times over. He's cleared the 1,000-yard mark every single season in Philadelphia, despite the fact that the Eagles lean heavily on the run game. He's shown he can torch man coverage, dominate after the catch, and make highlight reel grabs on the biggest stage. One quiet outing against a specific scheme doesn't change any of that. Still, it didn't take long for the national media to spin this into something bigger than it really is. Colin Cowherd dedicated a segment of his show to suggesting that maybe the Eagles should think about trading A.J. Brown, and he even threw the New England Patriots into the mix as a hypothetical landing spot. That kind of take is what drives Eagles fans insane because it shows a complete lack of understanding about what A.J. means to this team. To claim that Philadelphia doesn't throw him the ball enough, or that he's somehow expendable, ignores the reality of his production. The man has been an all-pro in every season with the Eagles. He's consistently among the league leaders in receiving yards. He caught a huge touchdown in the Super Bowl itself. He's delivered in clutch moments repeatedly. The stats back it up too. With A.J. Brown on the field since the trade that brought him from Tennessee, the Eagles are averaging nearly 28 points per game. Their record is 38 wins and 10 losses when he suits up. Without him, they've managed just 2 wins and 3 losses, including a humiliating playoff defeat to Tampa Bay, and their points per game average plummets to just 16. That is not a coincidence. That is the direct impact of having a superstar wideout who forces defenses to game plan around him. To suggest moving him would be to completely ignore the fact that Philadelphia is in the middle of a Super Bowl window right now. Trading away one of your most dangerous offensive weapons to a team like the Patriots, who aren't even contenders, would be pure madness. Howie Roseman is far too smart to consider something like that. This whole discussion also shows how national narratives can completely miss the reality inside Philadelphia. Within the locker room, A.J. Brown is viewed as an essential part of the offensive identity. Jalen Hurts has full trust in him. The coaching staff schemes ways to get him involved. And even when he's not putting up gaudy numbers, his presence alone changes the way defenses play. That has ripple effects for guys like Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert when healthy, and even the running backs who benefit from lighter boxes because safeties are shading toward Brown. His value goes far beyond just a box score. And speaking of value, the Eagles' offense as a whole has shown time and again that it doesn't always need to be explosive from week 1. Last season, they started slow offensively, looking disjointed early in September. But as the weeks rolled on, they got sharper, cleaner, and more dangerous, peaking late in the year when it really mattered. That's part of Nick Sirianni's philosophy. He doesn't want the team burning hot in the preseason or the first couple of weeks. He wants them to build momentum and be at their best when the stakes are highest. A.J. Brown's lack of involvement in week 1 might just be another example of that. And when you consider the long grind of an NFL season, sometimes patience pays off. So what does this mean heading into the Kansas City game? For one, expect A.J. Brown to be fired up. He's a competitor. He hears the noise. He knows what's being said about his usage, about the silly trade talk, about whether or not he can dominate again this season. And history tells us that when A.J. Brown has a quiet game, he tends to bounce back in a big way. If Kansas City tries to play him in man coverage, he could feast. If they stick to zone, then it might be Devonta Smith or another playmaker who shines. Either way, the offense will be prepared to take advantage. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep delivering the latest updates on our Philadelphia Eagles. And don't be shy. Share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Hold on to your helmets, NFL fans, because what we're hearing could shake the league to its core. Rumor has it that Gardner Minshew, the charismatic and ever-unpredictable quarterback, has officially parted ways with the Kansas City Chiefs, and the buzz around the league is that he's just inked a 3-year deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. While neither team has confirmed the deal yet, sources close to the situation suggest that this could be one of the most talked-about moves of the offseason. Minshew, known for his trademark mustache, confident throws, and penchant for theatrics both on and off the field, has been a polarizing figure since entering the league. At Kansas City, he mostly rode the bench behind a star-studded lineup, but whispers suggest he was itching for a starting role and a chance to lead his own team. Philadelphia, always hungry for a spark at quarterback, appears to have jumped at the chance to add Minshew's flair and experience to a roster already brimming with talent. The Eagles' fan base is reportedly buzzing with excitement, imagining a quarterback who can command the huddle, make daring plays, and, let's be honest, bring a bit of fun back to the franchise. If the deal goes through, Minshew could step into a situation where he's not just another backup, but a real contender to lead Philadelphia to the playoffs. Analysts are already debating how his quirky style will mesh with the Eagles' offensive scheme and whether his unpredictable playmaking will be the X factor the team has been searching for. Meanwhile, in Kansas City, reactions are mixed. Some fans are mourning the loss of a player who brought personality to the sideline, while others argue that Minshew's departure clears the path for the Chiefs' existing quarterbacks to shine even brighter. Whatever happens, the NFL rumor mill is spinning fast, and this potential Minshew to Eagles move has sparked endless speculation on social media. Jerseys, memes, and bold predictions are flooding fan forums as everyone wonders, could Gardner Minshew be the secret weapon Philadelphia didn't know it needed? If this transfer officially happens, it's bound to dominate headlines, highlight reels, and fantasy football board for weeks. One thing's for sure, Minshew is back in the conversation, and the Eagles could be on the verge of a very interesting new era. NFL insiders are keeping their phones close, sources say, and fans should buckle up. The rumor mill has never been this electrifying. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay updated with exclusive news about our Philadelphia Eagles, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. We can't wait to hear your thoughts in the comments. See you in the next video.